It's a beautiful day and I'm super excited. I'm usually not that excited. Like I don't get all riled up about Black History Month because I've been celebrating Black history all my life on multiple days, not just 1 month. I don't know, but something about this year just anchored something in me that I am living history. And I have been, right? But just this year in particular, I'm like, I want to shine a light on that. So I'm excited to be here. I want to share. And so a lot of things came up for me about my journey to $1 million. I've been seeing lots of conversations about getting to $1 million and whether or not you should even want it because most people never get there and people are making you feel bad about not being there and all kinds of stuff. And so today I want to share a piece of my journey. And I actually wrote a little rap that I'm going to do right now, which is befitting because I'm looking like I'm straight out of the 80s with my, my specs and somebody told me I look like Mr. T this morning. I was like, okay, you just went a little too far with that. But I took Parents Just Don't Understand, which is really what that music is from, but from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I was like, I want to tell them a little bit about this journey. So if you play the soundtrack in your head, wait, I'm like, I don't even remember how it starts anymore. Oh, this is a story all about how my life transformed to what it is now. So I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became a boss and a multimillionaire. I'm cracking myself up. So I want to share with you my story about making the move to millions. And I titled this Making the Move to Millions or Not. Making the Moves to Millions or Not. There's two things I want to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about you, your journey, my journey, trusting your power. And I want to tell you, first, let me invite you to this. I'm doing the Making Millions Masterclass next Tuesday. You don't want to miss it because I'm literally like opening up everything behind the scenes of my business. And in 2016, which is now is about 7 or 8 years ago, I really made a decision that I was going to fully occupy and take dominion of my space on the earth. And I began to do work on myself that has transformed me. But what I notice is the more work I do, it has a compound effect. And so I want to open up my business and share with you how I got to $1 million. I'm going to share with this a little bit about that today, but it took me 12 years to cross $1 million in my business. And I know there's lots of people who show up and they start working, they start businesses, and within 3 years or so, they're like, I have $1 million business. That was not me. It's next Tuesday. It's a 3-hour experience where I'm going to be walking you through all kinds of things. I'm going to be showing you my numbers. I'm going to be showing you my strategies. I'm going to be showing you my mindset stuff, not just routines, but like what comes up for me and how I deal with it, how I make $1 million decisions in my business, all of those things. So just populate it if you're watching this on my business page. But if not, you can just go to bit.ly/making millions masterclass, bit.ly/making millions masterclass. It's scary to share this information with people in the way that I'm going to share it. Oftentimes I'm talking to my team and I'm sharing with a lot of people and they're like, no one ever tells us this stuff. And I'm like, that's why I was stuck for such a long time, because no one wants to ever tell you. No one ever wants to tell you the real deal about what the journey looks like. And I desire to be that type of example. So about 2016 is when I made the decision. But when I look at how fast I've been able to collapse time lately, it's been a compound effect of doing this work since that time. So in 2019, my business crossed $500,000 in revenue. In 2020, we doubled it. We crossed $1 million. Last year, we did 2.3 million, but I want to share something with you. So in 2021, we did 2.3 million. But here's what I want you to know. We did $1.8 million, so $1,800,000 in 60 days last year in sales, not cash, in sales in 60 days. That shows me the glimpse into the time collapse. I also closed $1 million of those dollars in a 24-hour period. Again, sales. It's showing me the compound effect of consistency. And so I definitely to shine a light on how simple it can be, but not just that it's simple. You get to do this any way that you desire to do it. So again, that's my invitation for the Making Millions Masterclass. But right now, I want to talk about making the move to millions. And I did a post where I said, I want to share this for those of you who feel like your dream of becoming a multi-million dollar business owner feels like it's deferred. It feels like a dream deferred. And I have a word for you today, because that dream is not denied. It's just delayed, right? It's just go perfectly for me to accomplish my goals. Now, as an overachieving high achiever, I want to win. I want to win big. I want to be the best at what I do. And for a long time, that kept me stuck, because I thought that all the ducks had to be in a row, or people were going to be looking at me in a certain way. And if you want an example of somebody who has failed their way to the top, or who has imperfectly crossed the $1 million mark, it's definitely me. From typos on posts and in things, I didn't have a website until this last year, right? And really, we only did a website because there's some media stuff that I want to do. We're up-leveling the PR campaign. And so we wanted to have that presence for that. But I crossed the $1 million mark without that, with landing pages, right? Simple things, simple strategies that made it easy for me to show up and serve people. So I adopted this philosophy. Things don't need to go perfectly for me to accomplish my goals, whatever those goals are. I can make mistakes and still win. I can not get it right and still hit the goal that I'm expecting. I talk a lot about speed, but the truth is my fastest time collapse came when I slowed the hell down. I'm going to say that again. The fastest time collapse for me came when I slowed down. It took me 12 years to cross $1 million in my business, and I'm now helping clients do it like that. And the reason why I'm able to do that is because I've already walked a path. I've walked that path, and I've helped thousands of people do this work and blow their own minds with what's possible. But it wasn't until I took the pressure off myself and just showed up. There's a statement that I say quite often, and it's something that I've held close to myself for a long time, is that I am enough for who needs me next. See, I'm not trying to be the $30 million business owner today. I wasn't trying to be the millionaire business owner when I was only a 6-figure business owner. I wasn't trying to be the 6-figure business owner where I was at some point in time, but I learned to stop doing that. When I wasn't at 6 figures, I wasn't pretending like I was at 6 figures or beating myself up for not being there. I learned to be present with what I currently accomplish and to walk in that journey. I am enough for who needs me next. What I know, who I be, how I show up, how I guide people is enough for the next people that I'm supposed to lead. And when it is time for me to grow into that next level where I'm guiding people to another journey, I will go there in due time. So my first thing in getting to the point where I was willing to release everything and take the pressure off was understanding that it doesn't have to be perfect for me to accomplish the goal. I just have to get to the goal. Second thing I want to share with you guys today. In order for you to get there, you got to run your race. You probably heard that before in some way, shape, or form, but I want to give you just my own philosophy around this. There's no rules to getting to $1 million. I used to believe that I had to have this certain software in order for people to look at me as successful. I used to believe that I needed to get up early in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I'm a night owl. Right? I am a person who likes to sleep in. I do not want to be up with the crows and with the roosters and the sun, any of those things. It's rare that I get to watch a sunrise, and it usually happens when I'm on the other side of the world where the time difference allows me to do so. Right? And so when you read books and hear people say, well, so-and-so gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you start trying to do all these things that are outside of yourself. Now, that's just one of the drastic versions of it, but it's simple stuff. You got to dress a certain way, wear certain clothes, talk a certain way, make sure your branding looks a certain way. All of that stuff puts pressure on you to perform. And when you're performing outside of the truth of who you be, it's exhausting. And it's tired. That's why a lot of you guys are tired and exhausted, because you're out here postulating, sending your representative, not being who you are. And so what I had to stop doing is looking to the left and the right and realizing there's no rules but the ones I make up. And what I also did was I became ruthless about rest, relaxation, rejuvenation, self-care, period. Right? That's what I'm focused on. How can I be as healthy as I possibly can and still build a business that fuels me, that excites me, that lights me up, and that serves others in a way that we are having the ripple effect happen over and over and over again. One that we may never even be alive to see the real fruits of the work that we're doing right now. So I don't work on the weekends. I stop working at 5 p.m. And the only time that we work later than that, or we do work weekends, is when we have like a big event or something coming up. And it's usually just like the week before. And only if there are things that must get done because we're on a time crunch that we haven't gotten done yet. But it's rare, very, very rare, right? 5 p.m. on a Friday, I'm out. Sometimes in a half day on a Friday, just depends on what's going on for the day. Last Friday, I think I stopped working at noon. And then the weekends are mine. The weekends are my family. The weekends are where I go to spa days and take care of myself. And I typically will unplug from social media on the weekends too, because some of my work happens here. So I've learned how to balance the play between social media and the work between social media. So I will pop up and I'll comment on people's posts and I'll laugh and I'll post things as well, because I also don't want business to interfere with my ability to be a human on the planet, right? But I'm ruthless about it. It doesn't matter what other people have going on in their lives, how much of an emergency they think that it is. That time is protected for me. And so when I ask yourself, like in the grind of it, because you think it needs to be a grind, are you taking care of yourself, right? Are you taking care of who you are? Remember, there's no rules. There's a quote that I want to share with you today that I think will inspire you. I don't know where it came from. I think it's out of a book, so I couldn't find who to credit this with, but I want you to listen to the words. And so she silently stepped out of the race that she never wanted to be in, found her own lane, and proceeded to win. And so she silently stepped out of the race she never even wanted to be in, found her own lane, and proceeded to win. That is what I did. I stepped out of a race that nobody was having but me, that doesn't even really exist. The race that I put myself in because I'm an overachiever. And that's when I proceeded to win. Like I said earlier, the thing is this, the time collapse happened after the consistency. I'm going to read you guys a story. Everybody's talking about Joe Rogan. This isn't a story. I'm going to read you something that's on his Wikipedia. And now everybody's like, I need to get my podcast up and I need to do this. And they're like, and this is how you do a podcast. And you got to do all these things and all this stuff. And like Joe Rogan just showed up and started podcasting. And then all of a sudden, got $100 million deal. And so here's the first thing I want you to understand when I look at the Joe Rogan experience and his podcasts, however successful it is. And I know people kind of look at me in this way too. Like they think I just showed up and then all of a sudden there's success. It took 12 years. In 2009, that was the first episode of the Joe Rogan experience. And I would bet your bottom dollar that it didn't look then like it looked now. He didn't have it all down. He was doing it imperfectly. He was figuring it out as he was going along and adjusting the show as time went on. Most people are unwilling to do that. You think the first time you step out of the gate, it's got to be perfect. You're not going to get to $1 million doing that. 2009 was his first podcast episode. Goes on. 2015, that's when he was deemed one of the most, popular podcasts in the world. 2015. So what is that? 6 years? 6 years of consistency. Now from 2015, he's still doing his podcast. And I'm pretty sure it's a daily podcast. He's doing his podcast so he started 2009. By 2015, they're like, hey, this podcast is really popular with people. 6 years, yo. 6 years. And then here we are and just coming out of, I think it was 2020. Yeah. In 2020, Spotify paid him $100 million for the exclusive rights to his show. So from 2015 to 2020, we got another 5 years. We're at about 11 years on this journey. It is the consistency for me. This is how you run your own race. It's the consistency. How I got where I am is I go. I'm not driving. I'm not pushing, but I'm moving nonetheless. Moving nonetheless. If you think about the way water works, right? Water, depending on what type of water it is, the body of water that it is, it's always doing its own thing and running its own race. If you've ever seen a picture of the Grand Canyon, or if you've had the opportunity like me to be there in person at the Grand Canyon, you can see how thousands of years of just a trickle of water have carved out this incredibly beautiful piece of red rock to something that millions of people go to every single year to visit, to see, to look at the wonder and the awe. Just a trickle of water. And then you have something like power washing, where if you get that hose high pressure enough, you can clean things with it, right? Water takes on so many different forms. It's running its own race. You get to decide what that looks like. So when I look at myself, again, the time collapse happened after consistency. Once it clicked for me, what my lane was, how I was supposed to show up, who I was supposed to serve, and that I just needed to keep going, then time collapsing kept happening. Okay, I want to revisit that again. In 2019, I had a $500,000 year. That was 3 years into my consistency. Remember, I decided in 2016. The following year, which was just 12 months later, I did $1 million. That's 4 years into the consistency. Last year, 5 years into the consistency, I hope I'm doing my math right. 5 years into the consistency, or from the decision of I'm definitely doing $1 million business, right? This isn't the start of my business. This is no, I do want to have $1 million business. 5 years later, I have $1 million day. Not only that, I do $1 million day, $1 million month, and $1.8 million in a 60-day time frame. It took 12 years. What was different? I'm focused on me, not anybody else, not the race they're running, not the game they're playing. I'm playing my own game. I'm expanding my own self-leadership. I'm expanding my capacity to receive. I'm expanding my willingness to allow larger and larger sums of money to flow to me and into my life. That is a word for somebody. The willingness to allow myself to have that much money come into my life. We are in an incredible time. A world that affords us the opportunity to shift our family's wealth code, to change the rules that we know and see and have known and believed around wealth, to build a dynasty, to create a legacy, all using entrepreneurship, literally use businesses to turn our lives around. In order for me to reach the number of people that I reach on a regular basis, I used to have to pay for advertising. That's not a thing anymore. You can just turn on a camera. I can do what I'm doing. This is what I've done. I can just do this, say what I want to say, have my own show. It's unprecedented times, an opportunity to literally turn your lives around. But make no mistake about it, you must run your own race. Don't be swayed by the perceived race to make $1 million in a year or more like today. Don't fall into the trap of believing that somehow you are failing or are a failure because you haven't made that much yet. That's the fastest way to slow yourself down. Just know that it's coming, and know that when it starts to come, it's going to happen like that. It seems like for me, it happened like that, but then I look at the journey and go, it didn't. It still blows my mind, right? And God, please don't allow yourself to fall into the trap of losing your belief that you can absolutely do this thing like I almost did. I know there's a lot of people out there right now talking about you don't have to make $1 million because everybody's saying you need to make $1 million and it's making you feel bad about yourself. So choose something different. I did that at one point in time. I began to lie to myself about being coded for millions. I began to lie to myself about the desire to want to achieve on that level because it felt like it was getting pushed back and back and back. It was delayed. I felt like I was being denied. I would go, this is the year, and then nothing. And inside of me, I knew I could do it. And so what I did is I just lowered my expectations of myself. No, I don't want to have $1 million business. If I could one day get to a $500,000, that would be great. And I told myself that story again and again and again. And what I know now that I know how wealth creation happens, and how decisions drive our results that we create in our lives, just that simple inner agreement with myself alone was proof positive that I was never going to get there. Until one day, someone called me on it, and it awakened the dream inside of me that I had when I was a kid. Multi-millionaire. That's me. And I got truthful with my desires. So just because it's not happening doesn't mean you have to feel bad about yourself. It's delayed, not denied. Don't let someone else's definition of success or success period drive you to fall into the constant pressure to do more, to go bigger, to go harder, to go faster. I've made more money prioritizing myself, my mental, physical, and emotional health than I ever did grinding it out, pushing for it, driving for it. Again, delay is not denial. Just put one foot in front of the other and keep going. And most of all, take care of you and be ruthless about it. Take care of you and be ruthless about it. Get the spa days. Do whatever the things that light you up. Sometimes I take a self-care day where I just lay on the couch in my PJs all freaking day long until it's time to get in the bed again. I'll shower, put on new pajamas, put my bonnet back on, and get in my bed. Do whatever you need to do to be whole and complete for yourself. You resting does not push the goal off. It actually will be the thing that will catapult you further and further and closer to it. Here's the last thing that I want to give you guys today about making this move to millions. You got to trust your power. Oh, this is a tough one for me because people talk about power all the time. But what I know is there are those of us, people like you and me, who have had this sense of being powerful for a long time, even as a child. You may have experienced people in your family basically trying to tell you didn't know what you were talking about because you're just a little kid, because you were wise beyond your years. When you walk into the room, you are an atmosphere shifter. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not something you try to do. You don't try to shift the atmosphere. The atmosphere just shifts in your presence. That's power, right? That is power. And we all have different versions of what that may look like, right? You may be the kind of person that people are just attracted to and they tell you everything. You're like, I don't know why these people tell me the story. If I sit here on the, in a store on a bench, someone's talking to me. That's your power. Whatever that is for you. Some of you guys are the most giving people that I know. I'm not that giving. I have to work at it, right? You're the most giving and loving and nurturing people that I know. That is your power. Your power doesn't look like mine. My power doesn't look like yours. You must trust your power. The way that my power looks that inspires a lot of you, for a long time, I hid it. I pretended like it didn't exist because I wanted to fit in with everybody else. I didn't want people to see me as different. I didn't want the experiences that I was having of people not knowing to do with the fact that I held my head high when I walked into a room. And so I pretended that that wasn't me for a very, very long time, afraid of the backlash from being who I be. And today, people hire me to be exactly who I am, to tell them the truth straight up, no chaser. I don't have to beat around the bush, right? To be the living, breathing example of possibility in their lives. It's who I am. I don't have to try. It's not something I made up. It's who I've been all my life. As a kid, if I were to jump on a table, 15 other kids would do it with me. Like it's just who I am. I go first. I lead by example. That is my power. My ability to see power in other people and reflect it back to them. That is my power. It's always been there. I always see greatness in other people. I see what's next for them. We all have something that is our gift, that is ours by divine appointment, that is meant for people who are our divine assignment. You must trust that which moves through you. However it comes out, it doesn't have to look like mine or anybody else's. When I see people learning from other people and then they mimic them, I'm like, stop doing that. You have a resonance. There's a frequency and a resonance to how you breathe, how you move, how you be. That's a signal for those people you are meant to serve. And when you show up as someone else, even if it's just a fragment, they miss your frequency. It doesn't resonate because they're looking for you. The problem is we don't trust it. We don't trust our own power. For a long time, I had PTSD from just being me. But when I decided to step into my full power, when I allowed it to just be present as it is, I don't conjure it up. It's not a thing. I just let things flow. Whatever I want to say, how I want to say it, all parts of me, right? There's a really silly side to me, and there's a super serious, driven, focused side of me. There's an ambitious side of me, right? There's an intellectual side of me. Most of you guys probably don't know this, but I'm literally a nerd. Like literally, I watch documentaries and stuff for fun. When I was a kid, I read the entire series of encyclopedias. When I was in third grade, they had to send me to the sixth grade class for reading because I was so far ahead of the rest of the kids. I am literally a nerd. There's all parts of me, right? And I learned how to let all of those parts, the practical, the driven, the focused, determined, action-taking part of me, as well as the spiritual part of me, right? There's a part of me where I connect to God in such a deep level that he literally just speaks through me. And I've learned how to merge all those parts of me together, not hiding anyone in any place. I don't have to be in church for that part to work, or be in my business for the strategic part to work, or be in the appropriate setting for things to be funny for me. It just is. I am what I am. So in any given moment, we could be in a very serious moment. I may sing a song or crack a joke. It just is what it is. And that's what allowing my power has allowed me to be able to do. You have that too. And there was a time not so long ago, like this was just recent years, where I really started to come into myself, that I feared that power, that I feared that power would make me unrelatable to other people, that would make me an outsider. I feared that any relationships I had, whether they were at church, with family members, with people that I was meeting who were colleagues, friendships, the ones that I invest my heart and my soul into, that they would disappear, that they would go if I shifted into this space. Gotta be more like other people, how they want me to be. But today, I'm gonna tell you what I know. I believe something very, very different today. Today, I believe that as I up level, the people that I'm meant to serve, the relationships I'm meant to have, they will up level as well. And I've proved it again and again and again. I have rich relationships with people that I love deeply. I love my clients. And there was a time I was afraid to be myself with my clients because I thought they would be offended and all kinds of things. But my clients love me just like I am, as I love them too. I believe that being an example of what's possible, being an example of dreams come true, that is the most powerful thing that I can do. It's actually what I'm here on the planet to do, being a living, breathing example of possibility. And even beyond that, I believe that now the world is ready for powerful people to own their power. It's ready for successful women and women of color, people of color, who play a bigger game, who play big and win, who enjoy and revel in the lives that they create, who love living and love the lives that they live. I get to enjoy every aspect of my life. I spend a lot of days at Disneyland. It's January. I've already been to Disneyland 3 times, and I'm going again Saturday. I live a rich life. It's not all played out on social media, but I live a rich life. I'm committed to living, and I'm committed to loving. It's what I'm committed to. And you get to do that. I think we're in a time where you get to have both, and it's not either one. It's not like, oh, if I have a successful business, I can't live life, right? I believe that when I celebrate my wins, like my celebrations are your celebrations, and that your celebrations are my celebrations, and my wins are your wins. We had $1 million day. I could not thank everyone in the room enough. Team, clients, participants alike, it didn't matter. Because without them, there is no win. So your wins are my wins and my wins are your wins. And there's no limit to the amount of winning or celebrating. There's no reasonable amount like, oh, that's too much. This is for some of y'all because this is the key that gets you to the next level. Here's what happens. You win big and something inside of you says, oh, that's too much. And so you pull back internally, not mentally, not consciously. You're not like, oh, I don't want to get to the next level. But something inside of you is like, you're going too fast. You're this, because that's the paradigm you live in. What if there wasn't such thing as unreasonable or too much? What if you just got to have whatever came to you as fast as it came and it was okay? Because it is. That is the thing that I learned. Here's what I say. Unreasonable, unfathomable amounts of money and success and love and living life. This is the new paradigm. The paradigm we all believe is like getting rich quick is a scheme. The paradigm we've all been taught, that's been coded inside of us and passed down from generation to generation, says those who make a lot of money, they have to give up their life and they're not happy with the money that they make. Those who make a lot of money, they have to spend all their time in their businesses so they don't get to have fun and live. It doesn't have to be that way. There is a new paradigm on the horizon, and I am a living, breathing example of that. And I say, let's blow the roof off this new paradigm. Listen, I have all the statistics. I don't have them in front of me, but what I know, the one that's always top of mind awareness for me, is that only 2% of women-owned businesses ever cross $1 million. Now you can use that to stop you and say, well, I'm probably not going to get there anyway. Or you can allow it to pull you forward. Because here's the deal. When I look at that number, I go, and even less or fewer look like me. There are those who say, be reasonable. Why do you need $1 million business? They say, don't be fooled, right? Most people don't do that anyway. And they're beckoning you to give up on your dream, the desire that you know that it's inside of you. And I say, let's do this. Let's rewrite the paradigm and let's rewrite history. Why does it have to be 2%? Let's rewrite it to the point where it's 80% who actually cross the $1 million mark and only 20% who don't. But that starts with you and me. We are the change makers. Let's shift that paradigm. And what I know is this time that we're in right now, because there are more people of color making millions of dollars. There are more people making like regular folks who have become millionaires in just this last few years, let alone the past few decades. And there's more women making millions of dollars than ever before. What I know is this is just the beginning and we haven't seen nothing yet. One more time, I want to invite you to join me for the Making Millions Masterclass. Today, and until midnight today, it's just $222. The price increases at midnight. It's going to keep increasing and it'll end up probably on next Sunday or sometime at $555. Here's the deal. Listen to me, guys. Don't go anywhere. At every point in my life, no matter what was going on around me, I knew that I was coded for millions. But I also knew that I was playing small. I knew that I was living beneath the promises of God for my life. And I also knew that I was ready to create generational wealth, that I was destined to create generational wealth. It's crazy holding both of those knowings at the same time, and most people can't do it, right? You look around you and you're like, my world doesn't look like what I know that I can do. So I had these knowings, but what I didn't know was how to get there. I didn't have a woman who looked like me in proximity that was doing the damn thing to the tune of millions of dollars to look up to. Didn't have that. To pave the way to say, oh, that's possible. It's possible for it to look like I want it to look, and it's possible for it to look any way I want to look. So I made a decision that changed everything. And every day I'm making that decision. When I talk about what I'm doing and opening my, the behind the scenes and pulling the curtains back in my business, it's because of this decision. I made a decision to become her. I made a decision to become the example. I made a decision to become what I needed that I didn't have. And so this year, I've made an even more empowering decision. And that decision is to let you in on the blueprint, let you in on what I've done on the journey. And this class is just the beginning of it, because I desire that you create your first million too. Notice how I said your first, not a million, but your first million, because out of those 2%, very few do it again. By the way, I'm one of those, right? We've done it second year. We're in multiple millions now, right? Very few do it again. And so I want you to make your first million. Will it be this year? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's an eventuality. And so what I'm doing this year that I've never done before is I'm doing an entire series of micro programs just this year. Again, something I've never done before. Because up until now, the lowest investment you can make to work with me is $2,500. And that's in my sales school program, right? And that was an old price point. It's not even that anymore. So it's $7,500 to join sales school. That's the lowest investment to work and learn from me. So this year I decided I'm going to do a series of classes because I haven't had anything that small. And here's the thing. At this point in time, I have no plans to repeat it. I'm only teaching these courses live once, and Making Millions is the first in the series. I have no plans to teach them again. But last year hit me hard. When we did $1 million in a day, that glimpse of possibility broke something open inside of me, and it broke my heart for people who are struggling to figure it out, because we literally think it has to be harder than it actually is. And I want to show you how simple it has been. But the thing that has driven it the most is the consistency. And so I'm literally in Making Millions, I'm going to take you on the journey with me from my 2016 years all the way into 2021 so that you can see what it looked like. Because if I had bought into what I was actually seeing on paper, I would have never gotten here. And so I want you to have that glimpse of possibility. And I'm going to be doing several other classes that aren't about business. They're about your self-leadership, your personal power, and how the hell you show up in the world that allows you to call more money into your life and to accomplish living the life of your dreams. That is what we're going to be doing over the next 12 months. Micro programs where we're diving into this stuff. Making Millions is one more time, so you guys know where to go to get it. It's bit.ly/Making Millions Masterclass. During the Millions Masterclass, I want to give you a front row seat to everything, including how I block my calendar. Because people are always like, show me your calendar. You made that much money. Your calendar must look crazy. I'm like, nah, boo, it's not crazy. I'm going to show you how I block my calendar. And again, I'm ruthless about self-care. So I'm ruthless about the calendar block. I'm going to tell you guys a story during Millions. I'm not going to tell you right now. It had to do with one of my coaches and my calendar blocking, but that's how ruthless I am about it. How I price my programs, how I offer, when I offer, how I create content, the numbers, the mindset, the strategy, the breakdowns I've had, the processes that I put in place, and the life that I've lived while doing all of this in flow. Like, I'm not lying about this. I hate that I even have to say that. I live life how I want to live it. And I've still been able to create this. And when I thought it had to look a certain way, I was unable to create it. And so I want to show you what I've done, not so that you can mimic what I've done, but if I can show you, like, this is how I do it, and it's not as nearly as complicated as I used to think that it was. Listen, as a Black girl who grew up in the hood, as a little girl with Black skin, like, we're taught you must work hard. You must work twice as hard. You must work harder than anyone else. Like, carrying people on our back and working hard and grinding out till we're exhausted is a thing that we just get taught to do, and that we do. And so my inner thoughts and knowing inside of me was like, oh, in order for me to create that, I have to be exhausted. And one day I was like, no, I don't want that. I don't like it. That doesn't feel good. And I decided to create it a different way. And so I did, and I have, and it's beautiful. And I'm moved by what I've been able to do by honoring myself, choosing me again and again and again and again. And you get to do that. You don't have to be the sacrificial lamb. You don't have to carry the world on your back. There is another way. And so I just want to show you what I've done, because it may spark an idea in you about the simplicity of how you could do it too. That's what Making Millions is about. It's not a class for me to teach you, here's what you got to do to build $1 million business. This is what Shameca's done. Now let it inspire you. How do you want yours to look? That's what it's about. I'm doing this because I want you to see what's possible. I want you to see the reality of a $1 million business and the beginnings of a dynasty. Because we're building a foundation for something that I want to outlast me. I got a box of Omaha steaks the other day. And today I was pulling one out because I'm going to cook some of the meat that's in it. And I turned it over and it said 2 things that caught my eye and inspired me so powerfully, which is why I talk about using entrepreneurship to shift your family's wealth code and to create a dynasty. Omaha Steak started in 1917. And at the signature at the bottom, I don't remember the owners' names who are now running it now, but it says they are 9th generation owners of the company. That company has lasted and withstand 9 generations. Those who started it probably could never fathom that it would last as long as it did, but they set their family up for success, to be able to, for them to be the successors of this dynasty that they passed down. That's what we're creating over here. These are not businesses that are about paying your bills today and not knowing how to pay your bills tomorrow, but setting this foundation so that as this thing grows, there is something that you can hand down, not just the company, because a lot of people hand down their companies to their kids and they just hand them another job. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about lasting generational wealth, 10 generations deep, that will far outlast you. That the only way that the generations of the future will know your names is because of what the legacy you've left behind. Because there's a saying that 2 generations in, it's about the time that your name stops being spoken. What if it didn't have to be that way? So I want to be possibility. That's why I'm doing this. I wanted you to see the makings of a dynasty. There are 20 seats left for the Millions Masterclass. Last time I checked, I'm only letting 100 people in, plus my clients in my highest level program. So there's 20 seats left. Literally, when they're gone, when you click on that, you will not be able to buy a seat. There's a seat with your name on it. Go to Making Millions Masterclass or bit.ly/Making Millions Masterclass. That's where you'll get your seat. Again, price jumps to $333. It's $222 right now. It jumps to $333, but it is going to go up today. It was supposed to go up on the 1st, but it's going to go up at midnight tonight, Pacific time. I'm doing this for future generations, yours and mine. I'm doing this for my daughter. I'm doing this for my sons. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for us. To be naked in this way, like I said, it's a little scary. It gives me some trepidation. My team always tells me all the time, they're like, I've worked for so many people, like big names of people, and they never share this information. I'm like, I need you guys to know where we're going. I need you to know where we've been. And I need you to know where we are. We're in this together. End of story. Bottom line. Period. I'll see you at the Making Millions Masterclass. That's been my journey, and I'll share my philosophy behind that and how it helped me, because I used to do it differently. I used to try to do the low ticket to the high ticket, and it never really worked. And it wasn't that it doesn't work. Like, that's the thing I want to share with you when I do talk about millions. Millions is probably I think we have 1 or 2 business related classes during this series of micro programs I'm going to do this year, just like 2. But this is one of them. And I want to share with you, like, everything works. Everything can work. You just have to find what works for you. And that worked for me. And that's what I'm going to be showing you. Here's what worked for me so that you can see an alternate possibility of getting to $1 million, right? I crossed $1 million with a part-time assistant. 1 part-time assistant. We had some contractors who did like graphic design, and I'll share all of that. But I want to show you what is possible when you just decide, this is how I want to do it. And then you do it. Period. All right. So I'll see you guys next week in the Making Millions Masterclass. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I truly hope, it's my desire that today inspired you, period, in a way that you've never been inspired before. And that you found some practical nuggets of wisdom that you can take with you and hold on to as you walk this journey. Because, as it's been said before, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step, and then the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. How do you make the move to millions? You just keep going one step at a time. That's how you do this, boo. And you get there when you get there. See you guys. Thank you so much for watching my show, my channel. Here's what I want you to do. If you really love what you've been listening to, I want you to subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment. No, really, leave a comment. Like right now. I'm not gonna stop talking until you leave a comment. Seriously, leave a comment.